Have you ever felt powerless facing a child who acts as if the world revolves around them, throwing explosive tantrums when things don't go exactly their way, ignoring others' feelings, and showing almost zero tolerance for frustration? Imagine waking up on an ordinary morning, making coffee, helping with exercises, only to be abruptly interrupted by a curt "no," followed by an impatient glare that cuts off any attempt at communication. This is the portrait of increasingly egocentric and intolerant children, a phenomenon that haunts parents and educators and has gained momentum in recent years as lifestyles, relationships, and the family dynamic itself have shifted. Moves through real stories of families that found solutions and also faced setbacks, and ends with a transformative invitation that will renew the way you relate to your child. When Pedro's mother came to me, her 8-year-old son could no longer stand hearing the simple word no without reacting with tears, slaps on the table, or threats never to speak to her again. Tension invaded every room in the house, and conversations boiled down to orders or emotional manipulation. "If you don't do this, it means I don't love you anymore." The worn-out father would come home from work to find his son immersed in video games, yet completely impatient whenever anyone dared to interrupt his play. These episodes, which began small, snowballed into a relationship built on fear and emotional manipulation. But why does this happen? Child psychologists point out that egocentrism is natural during certain developmental stages, especially between ages 3. However, excessive intolerance raises a red flag. It reflects a lack of clear boundaries, overprotection that prevents learning how to handle frustration, and often an overuse of electronic devices that encourage instant gratification. When the reward arrives instantly with every tap on a screen, patience runs out, and the child begins to expect the same from the real world. The Silva family Essie story illustrates this phenomenon well. Upon realizing their eldest daughter refused to help with household chores and exploded at the slightest counter-proposal, they decided to try an approach based on empathy and firm rules. They began carving out daily moments to acknowledge feelings. A simple, "I understand you were tired," before asking for cooperation, followed by positive reinforcement when she agreed to pitch in. At the same time, they established clear consequences, like suspending privileges when rules were broken. Within weeks, the balance began to shift. The child learned her desires mattered, but they didn't override others' needs. Short stories, playful role plays, and even a tolerance game where each family member earned points for practicing patience turned daily life into something both fun and educational. The key here is to blend information and emotion. Data show that young people who develop empathy become more resilient and cooperative adults, but who hasn't heard of someone who, despite all the theory, only truly responded when they felt proud of earning a negotiated reward? It's an alliance between reason and affection. That's why we need to reinforce 3 pillars without resorting to technical terms or bullet points. First, create a space where your child feels truly heard, not just while apps run in the background, but in a moment when you genuinely connect. Second, set clear and consistent boundaries. Explain consequences in simple terms and enforce them without authoritarianism or resentment. Third, model the behavior you want to see. If you lose your temper over small mistakes like forgetting keys or spilling a cup of coffee, your child learns to mirror that intolerance. Instead of silencing emotions, validate them and show ways to channel them. Deep breathing, art, family conversations, or even a pantomime of how to calm down. And now, a story that encapsulates this transformation. By applying these strategies, the Silvas not only saw their daughter's behavior improve, but also a new spirit of partnership among siblings who used to accuse each other of being selfish at every turn. They created a gratitude board where each person wrote something nice they received from someone else that day, and the house filled with small acts of kindness. The obvious became extraordinary. But you might be thinking, that's great, but does it really work? It does, provided you commit for the long haul, because changing behavior takes time and demands patience, something that, ironically, you're teaching your child. The journey requires persistence, self-reflection, and above all, applied love. So, before you yield to the tyranny of your child's moods, remember, you are the living example of how to handle frustration. If today you feel powerless, imagine in a few months when tantrums lose their force and your family bonds are woven in mutual respect. Are you ready to embrace this change? If this video opened new paths for you, leave a like now, share it with other parents facing this challenge, and subscribe to the channel for more transformative tips. Join us in this mission to raise more empathetic, resilient, and above all, happy children.